I feel like photographs are so important. They're like what you're going to take when you're running out of your burning house. I have teens at home and I have 10,000 photos on my phone, and each one of them is precious. So imagine never having any, or one, or two.
Hi, friends. Ever wondered how you could turn your big ideas into results? Together, let's reimagine a better sector, tackle systemic issues, and yes, raise some serious cash. Welcome back to The Small Nonprofit, the podcast where your passion action. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Small Nonprofit Podcast. Today, we're going to be talking all about ethical storytelling. So, how to collect stories ethically, how to involve your community members in telling their own stories, and how to not be extractive or exploitative. So, all the things that you want to be thinking about. If you're new here, my name is Maria Rio, and I'm a fundraising expert with over 10 years of experience. And I'm on a mission to make sure that EDs get support that they need without the stress. To do that today, I have Kelly. Hi, Kelly.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Hey, I would love if you could introduce yourself to our audience in case they don't already know you.
Yes, so my name is Kelly. It's spelled a little different, but yes, it's Ceallaigh Smart. I live in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and I get to be the executive director of actually two nonprofits. One of them I'm going to talk about today is called Print the Love, and we've been around for about 10 years giving away photographs to people that don't have access to photographs. And really, the ethics around that is what I want to talk about because it is so important to me. But I also get to be the executive director of an organization called Haiti Outreach, where we work with water infrastructure and government to give more water and sanitation to Haitians across the country.
Okay, first, before we jump into today's topic, people are definitely going to be thinking, how are you handling two executive director positions? That sounds like a lot of work.
It is a lot of work. I think it is really about balance and really, for me, structuring my time because I also have family. I have two teens at home and a husband and a dog. And for me, it's really being what do I need to do right now? What has the most impact and really sticking to that. And you'd be surprised when you put those boundaries, how you get stuff done.
Okay, I love that. Maybe at a future time, we'll have you back to talk about time management because we could all use those tips.
Yeah, I am not perfect, but I've learned over the years what kind of works for me. So it's also learning your rhythms too.
Awesome. So let's talk about Print the Love. So for some people that are not super familiar with the organization, you're saying like, I give photos to people who don't have photos. What does that mean?
I did a lot of work overseas, mostly in Africa, and noticed that we took a lot of pictures as an organization or as individuals of people on the street or things like that. And at one point, I took a picture, and this was back when we used to have digital cameras before phones. And I took a picture of some kids and was like showing the back, and they're like, giggle, giggle. I think they're third grade. Look at me and my friends, so fun. And I was like, do you have photos of yourself? Right? Like, why in the world do I have this photo of you? You should have this. And they're like, no, absolutely not. We don't have photos. And so I did a deep dive into maybe there's other people out there doing this kind of work because I feel like photographs are so important. They're like what you're going to take when you're running out of your burning house. I have teens at home and I have 10,000 photos on my phone, and each one of them is precious. So imagine never having any, or one, or two. And so about 10 years ago, after doing some research, finding no one else was harnessing this work and looking at the importance of really what it means to have an image of yourself in the world and of your family, no one else was doing it. So I was like, wow, we need to do something about this. Lots of one-off stories or people who travel to small villages, take pictures, and then would return after they've printed things. And I was like, how's another way we can do this? Not as just outsiders, but really supporting NGOs that are doing the hard work on the ground. And so the best is through instant photography as a random act of kindness is what we've come to learn. And yeah, so we go to maternity wards where there's brand new babies where they would never have access to something like this, or even the moms that are walking around the hospital and never got to have a maternity shoot while they're still pregnant, or hospice care where people are passing away. They want a photograph so their family will remember them. A lot of schools where kids don't get anything like that at all. And that is really what we have dedicated the last 10 years to. And so far, we've given over 17,000 photos in 27 countries. And it has been absolutely amazing. And there's been a lot of discussion about photography that I don't feel like is happening with other NGOs or other EDs in the way that I feel like it shouldn't. So that's why I really wanted to bring it up with you as, hey, we should be talking about this.
So I came to Canada as a refugee, and we were only able to bring a certain amount of things. You can't bring like suitcases worth of stuff, right? So I actually don't have many pictures of me as a kid. Like for me, that's something that has always been a big deal, right? Like you don't have the same kind of like memories because you were a kid, right? And you don't have the same imagery to refer and know what it was like kind of thing. So your mission to me, I think really spoke to me. Photos are definitely a love language of mine. So I see the value of this so much. What do the end users of your service, what do they say about now I have a photo?
One of our goals maybe would be someday to go back to some of the places we've been and ask them about it. All we can really know is in the moment and the magic that happens. And I can't even tell you how much joy these photos create. It is absolutely amazing. I've traveled with lots of different groups and NGOs, and there's connection, there's passing by. But when you bring photos into the mix and photos that are only for them, we don't keep any digital copies, it's just prints it and gives it to them. That just changes the entire conversation. I've never had a photo of my family. I've never had a photo of my grandma or my baby, or the teens always want group shots and they're giggling and smiling. The little kids are so proud to get their single photo to give it to their parents. I can't wait to give this to my mom as a gift. It's overwhelming the amount of joy, even to transform a hospital waiting room. We'll walk in and everyone's sad or waiting for someone. And once the photos come out, everyone's sharing and, oh my gosh, look at it. That's so cute. It is a love language. I love that you said that. I haven't necessarily heard it. But it also for us is like an act of peace. It really is, hey, no matter where you are in life, you are awesome. And we just want to celebrate you with a photo of you and your family or just you. It's so lovely. It's magic. You just got to experience it yourself.
The other thing that I wanted to ask you about is that many organizations that do donor centric fundraising would love this. It'd be like, oh, I want this photo and I want to blast it on like my ads. I want to show it on social media. Is there a reason why you don't do that? And if so, can you walk us through it?
So that's why I think this is an important conversation. There's no right, wrong. I think as the international community is moving towards really honoring the stories of people who have never been able to tell their stories themselves, really moving against colonialism. And this is a big part of it, of people telling their own stories. And the ethics of it is a discussion that I feel like we're just constantly having when we go into communities and they see cameras come out, they instantly feel exploited. I've had many conversations. This isn't just in one country or another. We work in international communities, but I would say that's probably true as well in the US with different clients of different services saying, okay, you're using me for marketing. Now, I also don't want to be hypocritical here because we do have marketing photos on our website as well, right? Like we have to show what we do and lots of smiling faces and things like that. So that's where the conversation I feel comes in because people that we run into, they're like, we know what Facebook is. We know you're going to maybe go sell that in a book or put that in a gallery or make money. There's definitely stories. There's a famous story of a woman who was in the front of a National Geographic magazine. She has the very bright eyes. If you really do want to look into photography, storytelling ethics, that is a story to really look into. We won't go into it here, but how that affected her life and how that affected the photographer's life and how maybe he would have done things differently now. So, how do we honor people through photography, through consent, through maybe a policy, maybe not just a signed document with your clients, but what more can we do to lift up the people we serve or people we come in contact with their story and their dignity in a way that maybe we haven't before? How can we do that better? That's more the conversation I'm interested in than just saying, okay, we got a policy. Oh, we ask everyone for consent. We're good. But in which way is the consent being made? There's a power dynamic coming, especially from us as foreigners or US citizens. or as white people, right? There is a dynamic that happens. And so when we're asking people for their consent, do they feel like they can say no? Is the asking in their native language? Is it from a peer? And then when they're sharing their story, are we really listening? Or is there a narrative we're trying to sell, or a narrative I'm trying to say to my donors so that they'll continue to give? And I feel like the work we do speaks for itself in terms of that, but it is hard. No one else's mission is like ours. It's also like, who has time for this kind of thing? But I think this should be a top priority to talk about, and share this with your donors, share this with your clients, share this with your community to say, this is an issue that we're really passionate about, of honoring people and their image and how they can own their own image, because there's laws and then there's ethics. So yeah, I bring it back to you, Maria. What do you feel like is important to this conversation? Or what have you seen maybe done well or done not well?
Yeah, I think storytelling is such a big topic, but why I really liked your organization and your mission is because a lot of international development stuff and even nonprofit work as a whole can feel very like colonizing, like continuous colonization, continuous extraction, especially for people who may not be able to fully consent. Like they won't see the final product, they don't have access to the internet or whatever, like super vulnerable communities. You won't be able to talk to them again. Or they share their story with someone else who's now sharing it to someone else who now shares it to the comms and fundraising team. So it's gone through a little bit of a broken telephone. So for me, I find it very empowering when people have the opportunity to share their own story. But something that I see in nonprofits is, oh, we don't want to ask people, we don't want to traumatize them. And yes, while telling your story can be traumatic, and so can listening to a story, that can also be very traumatic. It is the lived reality of us. So if we don't share those stories from the people who are personally impacted, and if they're not empowered to do so, then that makes it a little bit harder. But something that I want to say is we can't just empower people and be like, please share your story. It's good for the cause. I want them to have their own reason for wanting to share their story. Like, why do they want to share their message outside of this organization? And are they actually sharing their message outside of this one story that this nonprofit is collecting? Or do they just feel compelled because, their nice food bank person is asking, or their nice like furniture bank person is asking, right?
Yeah, and do they understand what they're actually giving up? So the whole, like you said, the telephone here, do they understand that? I think something that we really do well and differently, which to be honest makes it harder to fundraise for grants and stuff, because we don't necessarily go back to people and ask, hey, what impact did that one photo have on you 2 years ago or something? And who's to say what the impact in 50 years would be like? Oh my goodness, I have this photo when I was in kindergarten and I love that photo and I've had it for 50 years and I don't know who those people who came and gave that away. But it's so important to listen. We do get no's from time to time, obviously. And something, like I mentioned, that we do a little bit different is we don't ask any questions. We don't ask how old you are. We don't ask if this is your fifth photo or your first photo. We don't ask your name. We don't ask where you're from. But in the discussion of saying, do you want a photo? And most people are like, no. We're like, no, we are going to give you a photo, a gift. We keep no copies and we don't ask anything else. We say there's nothing, no ties, nothing. It's completely yours. And through that interaction of not needing any numbers for our grants or needing these things, it opens the door where they do start talking. Oh, my name is Maria. I'm from here. Oh, I had this picture once of my grandma and I lost it. Or I was a refugee and we couldn't bring everything. Or we lost everything in a flood. And then builds a bridge that I haven't seen before. I do think that is a unique thing of maybe in storytelling, even if you're a different organization than us, you start with not asking anything, sharing a little bit about what you're doing and your story, why we're here. It's because we just believe that people should have a photo of their families and be able to celebrate life's moments, no matter where you are in life. And when they see the intention, which is sometimes so hard, especially if you don't speak the language, which is why we really rely on nonverbals and really talking about how to build trust with others, and how your energy of coming into a room, right? Like we keep very small teams for that very reason. We're not going to go into a maternity ward with 30 people. You're in such a vulnerable state. So we pick 1 or 2 people to go in and ask if they would like a photo of their brand new baby. And 99.9% of the time we get yes. And sometimes we get a no, and it's totally okay. So maybe it is a conversation of who's asking the stories in your organization, how they're doing it, what are the nonverbals that are saying, hey, I'm a safe person to share this? And do you fully understand where this is going and how this is happening? We also have a policy with all the people that travel with us that they do not use any personal photos for any galleries, because we have a lot of photographers that travel with us who are really good and take beautiful photos. But we say anything that you take of a person on a trip, you need to get permission from them and say that this is separate from Print the Love and that I'm just sharing it for myself. Or if, a lot of people do have phones, can I send it to you, a digital copy? But that's a very separate thing that we have to really talk to our team about, because we don't want to be talking about both sides of our mouth and making sure that we are keeping our integrity, because that's really important to me. And we've had some gallery showings of different things. They've taken a while for me to get used to, with absolutely no sales. We are not selling anything, but we are just capturing some of the moments of joy that have happened. But then those photos are just in our office. They don't go anywhere. If you would like to donate to give a photo, that's great. But we don't sell anything because that is deeply personal to me.
Love that. Something that comes to mind is, what do you think about how other people are portraying people in need? So we talked a little bit about influencer marketing. We have Mr. Beast who goes up to people and gives them $100. And what is the problem with that if you're doing good work?
I know. And I do wrestle with that. So much of what we do, we don't record anything. We go into hospitals and they say, yeah, absolutely no photography whatsoever besides your cameras that just give the one copy. And we say, absolutely. So there's no record of us being there. Or we go into certain schools. Absolutely. We're protecting the people and the children that are there. If you have money for anything, you're not spending it on any kind of photography. Or if you do, your first photo is usually when you're 15. So Mr. Beast is out there going on the street and saying, hey, can I give this to you? And then it's getting 1 million views and getting all this attention. So how can I share what we're doing with integrity and also blast us on TikTok so that we can get funding to continue to do it? It's a hard place to be. And I don't have an answer, Maria. I really struggle with that. Social media, you need it. And then at the same time, it's like, is it exploitation? Hopefully we've moved away from poverty porn, although some organizations still do that. And if you don't know what that is, look it up. How do we do this? I think it's just a discussion that your teams need to have of how to do it well.
It seems like your values are also really leading that strategy, though, because you could be doing what Mr. Beast is doing and you could be raking in millions of views, but you're choosing not to.
Honestly, the people that I know across the nonprofit world and NGOs that are doing the very best work that I've seen are usually doing it quietly. And it's so hard because I'm like, what you're doing is amazing, but the beauty is in the quietness as well. But now we're in this whole new world, the Wild West of influencers. Coming up with a strategy that kind of fills both buckets is something we're working on. I would love to get 1 million views with somebody that wants that on their end as well. So like we're going to Ecuador. If there was somebody in Ecuador who wants that attention, also wants that in their life, right? Understands what we're doing and wants to be a part of that, that's kind of where we're going to have to lean in. Because I go back to that story with the National Geographic woman. She didn't ask for any of that. She didn't ask for that attention. And she got a lot of attention that she didn't necessarily want. Finding someone who wants to do that and understands the full picture is probably what we're going to do as a team.
So we have a lot of executive directors in Canada, in the States that listen to this podcast, which is really lovely. Thank you all. What would you say to them if they're looking to start auditing their storytelling or thinking differently about their marketing or how they even relate in their community in non-extractive ways. Is there any tip that you'd recommend?
Yeah, so we did come up with a policy based on lots of different ones that we had seen out there, and it's on our website. You can definitely steal it. And I know people have said this before, but listen to the people that you're serving. How would they like their stories told, and putting that into policy? So every place we go, we always travel with local people, we always travel with translators. We never isolate ourselves. Like I said, we always try to uplift the work that is already going on there. So, like if there is a health clinic that's trying to get kids to brush their teeth, inviting them to say, if you brush your teeth and get your toothbrush, you get a photo. It's very simple, but trying to support the work that's already being done there. Every single time I get a chance, I say, how can we do this better? How can we approach you better? How can we work better? How can we organize the photos better? Because to be honest, sometimes when we go to the schools, it is complete and utter chaos. We appreciate the teachers that sort of organize the kids, but we've been places where they're like, okay, it's recess, you have 40 minutes, and there's 2,000 kids. Sometimes we do have to put the cameras away in more of a market situation because it gets so crazy and so busy because so many people want it and it just becomes overwhelming. But so in those kinds of situations, I maybe don't ask them, the people in the market, but school administrators, hospital administrators, other NGO, the kid, the parents, if it does seem appropriate, I always have our translator ask them, how can we do this better? And that's where we've gotten a lot of feedback and have shifted some of our ways in which we do our work. So I would say if you have a team, a communications team, even if it's one, or maybe it's just you, invite your board and say, hey, I want to talk about storytelling and have a conversation about the whole process from start to finish. When we approach a client or someone comes to our door or we see someone on the street, from beginning to end, sharing a story with a donor with a picture using their person's real name or fake name or blurring out kids under five's picture on social media, right? Like all those things from start to finish and see where, hey, you know what? Gut check, like this doesn't feel right here. How can we shift that and have a discussion and meet the needs of the communication of the organization? And who else should we be asking? And I know that takes so much time, but I would honestly, again, bring it back to your donors because I do that all the time. Say, hey, we're spending a lot of time on this policy, on doing things right. We don't want to spend it on fundraising. Can you help us out? Right? Like that is really important. And people get that. And they're like, yes, you should be spending time on giving the most dignity to the people we serve. Because if you don't have that integrity and that trust, then all the other work falls apart. Trust is really what builds the good work that everyone is doing.
So I'm definitely going to be linking Print the Love in the show notes. But for anyone who wants to continue the conversation, how can they get in touch with you?
Yes, absolutely. So go on there. You can just do Kelly@printthelove.org and email me, although my name is a little crazy. So sometimes people misspell it. So you could also just do hello@printthelove.org. And I'm happy to get back to you. And I'm happy to jump on a call to get that discussion going. I'm happy to do that because it is so important and because there isn't tried and true rules. Ethics is really a personal thing within the values of the organization. I would love to chat with anyone who wants to continue. Also, can I give a little plug? We have a program, it's called Supply the Love. Whereas if you are traveling or you work for an organization overseas, if you are going to a developing country, we will give you a camera and film for free. And if you want to give it away as part of your program in any capacity, all we ask is for feedback on how did it go in a blog post. And then you just return the camera to us. It's a borrowing. And I've sent cameras all over the US and even in Europe and Tel Aviv. And if you are interested in participating in the ethical photography that we do with our cameras, we have an amazing partnership with Fujifilm, Instax. We love their products, and that would be a great way to connect.
That's awesome. I feel like you're going to have a lot of takers for both of those offers.
That'd be great. All right. Thank you so much, Maria. This has been really important. So thank you for even just bringing this up and talking about this and getting it going.
Thank you for all the work that you're doing and for being willing to share your insight with our audience, because I know a lot of people who tune into the podcast are really thinking about how can we do things differently? How can we do them better? Like, how can we integrate social justice better into what we do, which is hard. It sometimes feels like reinventing the wheel. So having your expertise is like, oh, okay, someone already figured this out. I can move forward a little bit faster.
Yes. Thank you so much. And thank you for all you do for EDs.
And thank you all for tuning in to another episode of the Small Nonprofit Podcast. Like always, you can watch this episode on YouTube to see our lovely faces. But yeah, I really hope that you take Kelly up on those offers. It sounds amazing. And I hope that you start thinking about your storytelling as well, like the images that you're using, the questions that you're asking, and really trying to center the dignity, autonomy, and power of your service users as much as possible. But that's it for today's episode. Thank you so much for joining us. Until next time. Bye for now.
Thank you for listening to another episode of The Small Nonprofit. If you want to continue the conversation, feel free to connect with our guests directly or find me on LinkedIn. Let's keep moving money to mission and prioritizing our well-being. Bye for now.